Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have you all here with us today. We've got a fantastic conversation lined up, so grab a seat and let's dive right in. So let me tell you about this recent cooking adventure I had. I was prepping for a special dinner party and decided to make a Moroccan-inspired dish called chicken tagine with apricots and almonds. It's this rich, aromatic stew slow cooked with chicken, dried apricots, and a blend of warm spices including ground cumin. The occasion was a small gathering with close friends, and I wanted to create something cozy yet exotic that would bring everyone together around the table. As I was gathering my ingredients, I suddenly realized I was completely out of ground cumin. Now, if you're familiar with it, you know that ground cumin has this earthy, warm flavor with a hint of citrus and spice that's absolutely essential in Middle Eastern and North African cuisine. It's a staple in my kitchen for dishes like chili, curry, and even some roasted veggies. In New York, ground cumin is pretty popular because we have such a diverse food scene. You'll find it in everything from street food to high-end restaurants, and it's one of those spices that just brings a dish to life. Faced with this little crisis, I knew I had to get creative. Instead of just swapping in another spice, I decided to make my own version of ground cumin. I started by toasting some whole cumin seeds until they were fragrant, which really brought out their oils and intensified their flavor. Then I ground them in a mortar and pestle, mixing in a pinch of smoked paprika and a dash of cinnamon to mimic the depth and warmth of store-bought cumin. The result was incredible. It added a slightly different, smoky undertone to the dish, which everyone loved. It wasn't just a substitution, it was an enhancement that made the tagine even more special.
Wow, Chloe, that sounds amazing. I have never thought of making my own spice blends like that. How did you know the proportions to use when you were creating your own cumin mix? I'm so curious.
Thanks, Sarah. It was a bit of trial and error. Honestly, I started with the cumin seeds since they were the base, and then added the smoked paprika and cinnamon gradually, tasting as I went. It was all about balancing the flavors until it felt just right.
Chloe, I love how you turned what could have been a setback into something even better. I'm curious, did you notice a big difference in the overall flavor of the dish compared to when you've used regular ground cumin?
Absolutely, Jennifer. The dish had a more complex, layered flavor. The smoked paprika added a subtle smokiness, and the cinnamon gave it a touch of sweetness that played really well with the apricots. It was different, but in a good way.
That's so inventive, Chloe, and all about using what's available and making it work. Have you ever tried using other spices like this in your recipes, or was this a one-time thing?
Thanks, Emily. I actually love experimenting with spice blends. Sometimes I'll mix up my own garam masala for curries or a chili powder blend for stews. It adds a personal touch to the dishes, which I enjoy.
Chloe, your creativity is inspiring. I've had moments in my food truck where I've run out of a key ingredient, and it can be so stressful. What would you have done if you didn't have any cumin seeds on hand?
Great question, Maya. If I didn't have cumin seeds, I think I would have gone for a completely different flavor profile. Maybe something like a coriander and fennel mix with a touch of allspice to keep that warm, aromatic feel. But I was lucky to have the cumin seeds on hand.
I love how you improvise, Chloe, when it comes to purchasing ground cumin. I always look for freshness first. In Florida, the humidity can really affect spices, so I buy from places that have a high turnover to ensure it's fresh. I mainly use cumin for my citrus marinated meats, and fresh cumin is key to keeping that vibrant flavor.
That's a great point, Maya. I always check the origin of the cumin I buy. In California, we get a lot of imports, and I found that cumin from certain regions, like India or Turkey, tends to have a more intense flavor. I use it in my vegetable stews and grilled dishes, and the quality really makes a difference.
Both of you make excellent points. For me, it's all about organic certification. On our farm in Texas, we grow everything organically, so I like to make sure my spices are too. I find that organic cumin has a pure, earthy taste, which is perfect for my homemade chili and barbecue rubs.
I totally agree with all of you. One thing I also consider is the packaging. In Washington, the moisture can affect spices, so I always go for cumin that's in airtight, dark glass containers. This helps preserve its potency, especially since I use it often in my baked goods and savory pastries.
You've all brought up such important factors. For me, I look at grind consistency. I like my ground cumin to be very fine so that it blends seamlessly into sauces and marinades. Coarser grinds are great for rubs, but for dishes like the Tagine, a fine grind is essential.
Speaking of alternatives, in California, I sometimes use caraway seeds when I'm out of cumin. They have a similar earthy flavor, but with a bit of a licorice kick. I've used them in stews, and while they're different, they bring a unique twist to the dish.
That's a good one, Sarah. Down here in Texas, I've often turned to smoked paprika as an alternative. It adds that deep, warm flavor that cumin gives, but with a smoky undertone that's perfect for barbecue sauces and chili.
In Washington, I've tried using coriander as a substitute. It's lighter and more citrusy than cumin, but it works well in a pinch, especially in baked goods and lighter dishes. It doesn't have the same depth, but it brings a bright, fresh flavor. I found that anise seeds work surprisingly well as a cumin alternative here in Florida. They're sweeter and more aromatic, but in small amounts, they can mimic the complexity of cumin, especially in marinades and seafood dishes.
Those are all fantastic alternatives. I've used fennel seeds before when I didn't have cumin. They're sweeter and more floral, but when toasted, they add a lovely warmth to the dish, similar to cumin, but with a different nuance. Wow, what a fantastic discussion we've had today. We talked about everything from inventive ways to manage a cumin shortage to key factors when purchasing ground cumin and some really interesting alternatives. Sarah discussed caraway seeds. Jennifer brought up smoked paprika. Emily suggested coriander. Maya mentioned anise seeds, and I talked about fennel seeds. I'm so grateful to each of you for sharing your insights and experiences. It's been such a rich conversation. And with that, we're wrapping up for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Until next time, keep cooking with passion and creativity. See you soon!